Good, thanks.
I'd like to ask you a few questions about color.
Okay.
You've been working with color for a long time. Will you let everybody
Yes,
know
I have.
Your name and your background and your experience with prescribing color?
Okay. My name's Randy Hillam. Background is in interior design, decorative finishing. I've been with Dalys for about 10 years as a decorating consultant. We do a lot of paint consultations here. I worked in visual merchandising for several years. So I've kind of been around paint and color, and a lot of that has been hands-on, mixing the paint at Dalys. In the first part of working at Dalys, I was actually the tinter, so I got to see what went into the paint and got intimately connected with.
What a tinter is. What is a tinter?
Oh, a tinter is the person in the paint store who puts the color in the can. And at Dalys especially, it's the person who does the color matching. So another way of saying it would be the colorist, because the tinter does the custom matches. Yeah.
So if I said, I want you to match this blue, and I showed you something on my phone, you could do it for me.
Well, the display is the problem on the phone, but in theory, yeah. I mean, we have people bring all kinds of things to be matched. They might bring a petal of a flower or a stick of butter or whatever, and whatever it is, we try to match it by eye. So that was a really good training for me as far as learning what pigments do what and what makes a color. And so I'm also a fine artist, and that kind of got me interested more in painting, and so I went down the road of fine art too, putting all these things together. So
do you think there's an advantage in being a colorist with a background in tinting?
Absolutely, yeah.
So there's a lot of colorists out there, and you think you're better because you actually have made the paint and see the limitations?
Absolutely, yes.
Do you have a story you can give me on that? Where there was an advantage for you versus another color?
Well, that's a good question. I'll have to think about that. But one thing about pigments is, let's say you're doing an exterior. One thing that we know from how the paint is made is that if you're working with earth pigments versus man-made pigments, those are going to be they're going to hide better, and they're going to resist the weather and all those kind of things better. And those are like, all of your iron oxide colors, but those are also kind of the earth colors. So sometimes...
Is the word color fast, is that what you mean by dirt?
Color fast, yeah.
They won't fade?
Right.
Okay.
They won't fade, and they're stronger.
Color fast.
Color fast. But a lot of man-made pigments, which are also called organic pigments, they're very color fast too, but not all of them. So, there's certain times that maybe a certain yellow will have a characteristic of fading, so it would be okay to use on the interior of your house, but not on the exterior. So sometimes issues like that would be important to know when speccing paint, and just coverage too. I would be reluctant to spec, some kind of a really deep transparent color for an exterior, just because of the coverage.
I have a question for you that's a hot topic in Seattle, and that's if I'm getting my place ready to sell on the market, talking interior walls.
Okay.
People are always concerned because when you're selling, obviously, you're trying to sell your property for as much money as possible. So
Right.
you want to put your best foot forward for the colors.
Yeah.
And so give us, if someone were to call you on a consult and they were to say, Randy, what should I paint this 2,000 square foot condo in Belltown to maximize the resale value? Is it white? That's what everybody says. Should it be white?
No.
Tell us.
I think white would be too cold, so I would be interested in neutrals. But what's really important to me when I go into a house or a condo is what existing materials are there. There are all kinds of surfaces. There are carpets, tiles, countertops, all those kind of things that the homeowner may not be changing. So those things have to show up the best that they can. So my job is to get an updated color that also is going to make some of those materials, which may not even be fresh and new, to make them look fresh and new. Because sometimes the relationship, the right color next to some, maybe a material that's a little sad looking, the right paint will bring it back up.
So Randy, you said neutrals.
That's why I want
You
Yeah.
have two color palettes here.
Yes.
The C2 and the Pratt and Lambert. Can you pull a color scheme out for me?
Sure. Okay, so I have I have one of my favorite neutrals from Pratt and Lambert, Ventana, which means window in Spanish. This is what I would consider a warm gray. It seems like people are very interested in grays right now, but in Seattle, on one hand they're saying that they want gray, and on the other hand they're saying, well, I don't want it to look cold because this is Seattle. So Ventana has a lot of green in it, a lot of gold in it, but it still kind of reads as a gray.
I definitely want to go a lot darker in the gray family.
What's the other color you have there?
This is called chalk gray. So this is a great off-white from Pratt and Lambert.
A lot of them had a lot of green in them.
It's a soft, what I would call a soft warm gray too. So this could work as a wall, or it could work with something like this as a trim.
Yes. It's
So,
a cooler taupe.
You know, that would be a nice combo. And you don't get that kind of high contrast white. It's a little bit softer. So a lot of people are interested in that kind of white popping trim, but for me the architecture has to support that. So if you don't have big chunky important trim, then I'm not going to recommend that you use big bright white as your trim color. I'm going to try to get you to go a little softer.
Thank you, Randy.
You're welcome.